when I was just playing casually as a kid, you know, Link to the Past was the Legend of Zelda game I grew up on. A lot of people my age, they were more the Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. I myself, though, loved the Links to the Past. That was always my go-to Zelda game.
And isn't it amazing how some 30 years later, it seems like we're still playing this game?
Absolutely, absolutely. It never gets old.
Do you feel old yet, Yodonashi?
Well, considering I'm not even 30 yet, not quite.
I'm not even 30 and I feel old. Alrighty, well, we'll get the rest of the escape sequence here. Phant, well and ahead by a whole couple screens here to get the key rat, and actually a pretty friendly key rat.
Yeah, that key rat can be a little annoying sometimes. You know, he likes to duck and weave and sometimes do a little bit of damage to you, all to get that one key.
Alright, well, we had our bombs from our uncle who did not want us to leave any stones unturned after the power glove we'd already picked up. With those bombs, we're able to check these 3 items. There is a map in the back here, so there will be something in the actual sanctuary. And Phant actually appears to be getting a 6-minute escape, which is really nice.
Absolutely. I'm not sure if you caught it, Yudai. Did we get a boots hint from the uncle? I did miss where you said that was.
It was the light world, which it is interesting. That's so nondescript. It doesn't tell you where in the light world, just somewhere.
Excellent. So light world boots. That means, chat, your ped seed could happen. It could.
Yeah, it is on the table. It might be like hanging off the corner of the table and, you know, at risk of plummeting to the ground, but it is still technically on a surface. I think we saw 3 crystals in the light world from that map check.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I thought we saw as well. Right now we're getting very standard routing. Both runners probably going to go up and check out the Lumberjack Cave, make sure to see if it is an Agaseed in logic or anything like that. And probably going to route down through the woods and into Kakariko Village.
Well, our tier 1 tree pole going to be bombs. I did not happen to catch that lumberjack ledge. Did you see it?
It looked to be a piece of heart, but we only saw the very bottom tip of the item. So we'll hopefully get a better look here as Ben goes in.
It's an interesting choice to check this, because as everyone knows, you need a pair of boots to get into it. And we know that they're going to be in the light world, so they should be accessible. I think that's probably why these two are both checking it right now.
Absolutely. Just picking up some rupees from the normal mushroom spot. We'll see if there's anything in the thieves' hideout. Get the blue boomerang.
Would have been nice to have during that escape sequence. Could have saved a few frames.
Absolutely. You know, right now what I'm noticing is we're getting some fairly standard items, other than, you know, the swap out the boots and the Titan or the Power Glove. It's pretty similar to what you would get if you were just playing vanilla, like to the past.
Yeah, we're not looking that far off from what you would normally see in the speedrun. This is actually feeling like familiar territory, at least on the right side of the screen. This cold stare, or maybe that's like a Krako skin, I don't know, from Kirby.
I think it's more of a cold stare puff.
You know, I want my dreams to be memes, so I'm gonna hold on to the Kirby boss belief. You're right, though. It definitely does look like a cold stare puff. Interesting sprite choice. That's probably hard to bomb jump with.
I guess we'll see how difficult it is as we do bomb jumps throughout the seed. I know Ben is a fan of doing quite a few bomb jumps in different areas.
Yeah, it's a good skill to have. One that is surprisingly relevant in this particular Zelda game. We've uncovered quite a few different ways to pull them off. So there's also some newer tech that we might end up seeing, something that is recently approved, an icebreaker, as we've been calling it in the community. That's a possibility for our Ice Palace later today, or maybe even the new Diver Down in Swamp Palace. A couple things that we may end up recovering once we get to them. So far, Kakariko, pretty empty.
Yeah. Worldwide Wimpy, one of our trackers, reminding me specifically as a viewer of Ben quite often, that Ben doesn't actually choose sprites, he always leaves it to RNG. So that's how he got his sprite.
You know, I gotta have a lot of respect for that. Well, that's our hammer here in the well. So that's our first major, I guess, weapon to work with. We have a lot of rupees too. Despite getting 20 back from the bottle vendor, we're in pretty good shape to get Zora soon.
Yeah, getting the hammer will make you start to wonder what the right routing's gonna go for these racers, where they all gonna go. But picking up a Master Sword in the Chicken House, that's a very nice pickup for as early on as it is.
And I think I like that pickup even more after having already found the hammer and glove, because at this point we're a moon pearl away from Village of Outcasts, 10 minutes in.
Very, very true. Very true.
However, nothing there to prevent it from, say, being on the pyramid. We could still end up having to do this Aghanim fight. In order to get there, we would need a lamp at this point in logic, but otherwise we have the components.
As Chad is saying, in fact, or a lamp away from Aga.
Hey, we were talking about standard, openings, kind of reminiscent of the speedruns. Maybe that's just something that ends up happening.
Yeah, we will definitely see. I mean, I wouldn't be against a Aghanim or a Ped Seed myself. It's always interesting to see. I haven't seen too many of them recently. We got a bottle on race game, so Phant's gonna go ahead and head in there to grab that.
Yeah, it's a wise choice. Whether or not he even bothers to check Sick Kid right away might even be, in consideration, because it's kind of inconvenient to route it this way, and there's not a reason you want to head back north. So it looks like both of them will choose to do it.
Yeah, that's a very good grab. And of course, even if you don't, like you were saying, if you don't check Sick Kid right away, that flute will still have to be turned in sometime when you find it. So you can always route it in at that point. Sick Kid is not one of the worst things to orphan.
However, it looks like Phant not taking any chances here will end up heading back to the village, which, I mean, it's not surprising either way. I think both plays would be valid in this situation. I think if you weren't going to be doing what Phant's doing, you're saving quitting as soon as you get this bottle. Well, our Sick Kid today going to provide half magic, which is actually a pretty great pickup early in the race.
That's going to do some major benefits to both runners as early on as it is. Magic being very useful.
And before long, we'll find some kind of magic weapon that we're going to want to use, whether it's, the cape to stay invulnerable, Cane of Burna, maybe a fire rod. All of those things are really helpful against bosses. And this being Ambrosia mode, you really do want every boss advantage you can get.
Absolutely, because for those of you that don't know about Ambrosia, the bosses are guaranteed to drop items, so we'll see what all these bosses give us.
Yeah, with that, plus an assured sword, Ambrosia, and a boots hint immediately in the game, pretty easy to kind of sort out your seed if you remember all these details. We've seen it all throughout the week that a lot of runners out there have just forgotten that the boss has an item, and that can really change how much stuff you even open in a dungeon.
Yeah, it definitely makes you want to watch your logic and be counting keys, watching for compass map, everything like that, much more than most people would be doing in their regular seeds.
Well, we've been hearing about this boots hint being Light World, but where in the world, in the Light World, is those gosh darn red boots?
Damn, giving us a lot of money. 300 rupees in the chest, and then 20 rupees outside.
Yeah, I gotta think that even if you don't have the Moon Pearl to do the preferable the preferable waterfall cave, water walk, you still want to check Zora at this point.
Oh, absolutely. Zora, while he has a reputation for ripping people off, you've got so many rupees, and there's quite a few checks up in that area, it doesn't hurt to route in.
There's a magic powder for Phant in the mini Moldorm cave. We'll see if this turns up anything else of value. So far, pretty much just safety and a bombos.
Bombos Medallion being one of my personal favorite medallions to get early on. It really helps for clearing out kill all rooms, and it could have been very useful for mini Moldorm if they had gotten it before then, but...
It truly is the quintessential screen nuke, though, and with half magic, we have many uses available to us. I mean, shoot, you could even use it for the entire Aghanim Tower climb if you weren't comfortable not having a lamp.
Very true, very true.
It'd be very slow, but you could do it.
Or just seeing typical South Shore routing, checking out the dam, moving into Mini Moldorm Cave, and then up into Ice Rod Cave. Picking up those Titans, giving us Kakariko Dark World access to Village of Outcasts.
Now, I like Phant's decision here to leave immediately, to not to bother with the whole fake flippers check, because I mean it's a very slow walk back down there. We may end up getting the flute again, and we already have logical access to normal Zora front door, so to speak, with the big rock. So there might be a better time limit.
Yeah, exactly. There's just so many more checks that you can get having gotten those Titans mitts that you can just make a decision on where you want to go, and it'll probably work out.
And both of them going to do that. So looks like both of them are probably going to head over to the Eastern area. 3-item checks immediately. Even without the bow, we can go into Eastern Palace and try and check for items there. We know one will be on that boss, though. So it kind of feels like a bow or a lamp is maybe even a fire rod in our near future here.
Absolutely. Picking up a very nice blue goo and book there in Sashra's closet.
Well, that's another opportunity. We know that Desert is not going to be boots locked because it's a crystal requirement. Or actually, never mind. Boots are not in GT. I'm sorry. It feels like every race where boots are in GT. There's a good chance it could still be boots locked. If anything, I think it's more likely to find boots there, if anything.
That's a possibility, absolutely. Of course, we do still have a few Light World checks. For all we know, boots could end up being in Graveyard Ledge.
Oh, that's a rough place to think about. Yeah, so the Light World hint is going to basically imply that it's not directly in a dungeon. So it won't be in Desert, won't be in Eastern. It could be in the overworld checks adjacent to those. So the Green Pendant Turn-In, it could be something like Bombo's Tablet or Ether. It could be on the mountain. All sorts of locations.
Now we're seeing different decisions from our runners. Phant going to go ahead and dip into Eastern Palace to get the first few item checks. Meanwhile, BenCreighton is probably going to head over towards Desert and check Agina's closet, and maybe even dip into Desert to see if it's boots locked or not. Sorry, misspoke.
Well, it's some interesting, choices between the two of them. Both of them are basically hoping that the sequence pays out for them. You would want to have boots in Desert. You would want to find bow at minimum here in Eastern. Even if you didn't get the lamp, that would still work out for you. Agina's Cave before Desert, an interesting choice from BenCreighton here. Might imply that he doesn't expect to be able to finish Desert.
Very well could also be a check for the boots, because if it turns out the boots are here in Agina's Cave, that really helps for Desert. But picking up the flippers instead...
Toes of some sort.
There's something to put on your feet.
Well, hopefully with those flippers, he'll be able to paddle his way out of this cave and head into Desert. I don't think you normally swim through the sand, but BenCreighton, certainly not for lack of trying. So this makes Waterfall Cave... Oh, there.
Boots on Desert Ledge. Very good gamble on BenCreighton's part, and it worked out. That is quite lucky.
You could say he's going to pay less for his decision to check out the footwear out here in the west side of the world. Phant here going to be in the dark for a little while on it.
Of course, doing the dark rooms in Eastern Palace, not too terribly difficult. Actually, the first dark rooms I learned myself. They're a fairly easy sequence break to learn, and quite worth it, honestly.
Yeah, I'd say those are like the pound for pound easiest ones to do, easiest ones to do consistently, and it's really not the hugest time sink to be doing them, regardless of equipment.
BenCreighton picking up the big key out of the first chest in Desert, and then we got a shovel there on Desert Torch.
That's totally not ominous.
Could we have a fetch quest seed?
At this point, you almost think, yeah, it has to be. I mean, anytime you have an item you can't access that doesn't give you a clear indication of what's going to happen from it, yeah, of course. Oh, boots mode. Less than 20 minutes in, BenCreighton dashing his way towards the remaining shovel. He's not leaving that behind. He totally digs the implications.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we're not able to complete Desert due to not having any sort of fire source to get through the backside.
Well, a quick bonk or two will be enough for BenCreighton here. Getting past the eye laser. We'll save and quit to avoid a second shot.
Phant gonna go ahead and head over to Desert and pick up what we know to be his boots.
It truly seems like Eastern Palace was empty.
That's what I noticed as well, so it's gonna come down to something in the back or your Armos fight.
Yeah, no obvious indication of where that bow is at. I think though that the choice to check a Genis cave here for both of these runners will pay out really well. Phant probably avoiding a potentially horrible situation, as many people isolate this check for a very long time. I want to say this water is going to lead us to bow or some other means of maybe even the Moon Pearl. It could be here on the hobo.
Absolutely, we're gonna see how rich our hobo is this time. Getting it's just a piece of heart.
Well, it's all you need. Just love.
I think there's a song about that.
Yeah. But copyright reasons, I'm gonna have to refrain. Wait, refrain. That's a pun too. All right, sweet. But yeah, so we'll hear a song of sorts from Phant to enter in. Maybe a prayer jingle or maybe a hymn. I'm not sure yet. But BenCreighton is going to give us our first look at the Zora's domain area, which is several checks, 4 total.
Absolutely, we're having those flippers put Zora Ledge in logic, which is very nice heading up into this area. A lot of times people head up into this area after doing fake flippers or water walking and not be able to check Zora's Ledge.
Oh wow, we got a fairy drop from the waterfall fairy, so being able to reliably get fairies, even though we have powder, we don't have a bug net. That's a great extra safety to have.
Just 50 rupees there on Zora's Ledge, so we won't have to swing back down there to grab that.
Yeah, if we didn't have so many rupees, that might even be a way to bail yourself out from, missing Zora on account of a slight shortage. But Zora today, 500 rupees. What's he going to give us?
He's going to give you a 10% interest return.
Yeah, and if you're lucky, you make it 20% by walking, but we don't need that many rupees, so saving quits for BenCreighton. But he is notably ahead here. Eastern Palace is a time sink. If he ends up delaying that check till later, he is in a good position.
Absolutely. Now it's a question of Ben doing exactly what I was about to question if he was going to do or not. Head over, check out that dig spot, then head up into Village of Outcasts for all those checks.
Yeah, so these boots are going to potentially keep him off the hunt for Eastern Palace for a while, and that's the best case scenario for Ben. For Phant, you kind of want Ben to head over there afterwards with a really nice shovel dash from Ben.
Absolutely, just getting some rupees off of the dig from the shovel. Nothing there, no fetch quest as of yet.
Well, this is interesting. We're going to see Phant check the right side of Desert, which we know has no items for us because this is an Ambrosia seed. One of them's on Lamulus.
Ben heading up to go ahead and do his Village of Outcasts checks. I really like that play on his part. He doesn't know about it, but still good choice.
Yeah, being able to check these, the Magic Bat, the Bonk Rocks, we can actually get King's Tomb already, which is interesting enough. These are all locations that would be really awful to find a Moon Pearl, but would be great to scout out real quick.
Oh, I suppose, yeah, we can't do Village of Outcasts. I didn't even notice the Pearl wasn't found yet. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Well, with all the things that we have and how late you usually find them, I mean, I've seen so many seeds where you don't get a hammer, you don't get Titan's Mitts, you're looking for that second sword, all kinds of things that would normally keep us off from getting the Moon Pearl. So, I mean, it's a little strange to be 24 minutes in, still not finding one.
Yeah, got a little bit ahead of myself, but
However, we have King's Tomb and Bonk Rocks ahead for BenCreighton, the last two remaining locations to keep him away from Eastern Palace. It would be a very strange decision to go to Aghanim before doing that. In the meantime, Phant's finishing up the water checks here. We'll be heading to Zora's Domain to spend 500 rupees and get a small return for it. And I have to imagine Aghanim shortly following. Well, I guess he's probably still got his boots checks to do, so maybe those and then Aghanim.
going down into Bonk Rocks here. See if BenCreighton lucks out. Getting that Moon Pearl, opening up so many more checks for BenCreighton.
Yeah, that's a massive find. And plus with the Hammer and Titan's Mitts, we have all kinds of options available to us. The save and quit suggests to me that he's probably heading towards Hype Cave to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Swing down through Hype Cave, do that area, and then maybe head up to Village of Outcasts, maybe dip into Thieves Town, whatever you want to do. He's really got the world being his oyster right now.
And I do find it interesting that he would head to Hype Cave first, because it's not necessarily like superior, inferior. Normally you don't want to start there just because you can't normally continue north on the west side. We got Thieves Town as a pendant. It looks like Turtle Rock and Palace of Darkness.
I believe so. I didn't see the blue pendant from first glance.
Yeah, so we'll get another look at it after Phant grabs his Moon Pearl and jumps into the Dark World. That'll be another map check. But here's Hype Cave.
So far, Hype Cave not being very hype, and 1 out of 10 hype.
Yeah, absolute tripe in that cave. A couple minutes later, there's that Moon Pearl for Phant. Has an opportunity to potentially catch some time up over BenCreighton. That Hype Cave is probably not the best way to start off the Dark World here.
Yeah, Phant heading directly towards Kakariko and presumably into Village of Outcasts. Probably the better call to make at that point.
Of course, neither of these two knew what to expect walking into it, but we know, having watched Ben's side, that unless there was a mirror like right there at the Stumpy, he was probably going to pay for this route.
That's safe to guess that Ben will most likely swing in to do his dig game right now.
I'm very surprised to see Phant going into Skull Woods immediately. We know there's only one item in the front here.
Yeah, not having that fire rod does make Skull Woods a questionable dip, because we do know that the other item has to be on the moth fight.
You know, it's entirely possible, though, that one critical item that you would want to find, maybe like a fire rod, would be in here or something.
This is very true. And just getting a piece of heart off a dig game.
Tough luck here for Phant. Actually not even going to have a fairy to work with, so we'll take a quick death warp to the entrance here to try and get this bomb jump. Was trying to do a dash bonk to get the setup, but was dashing considerably too early. And actually too far away from the pit, which is an uncommon problem with that setup. Yo, that fairy drop, though.
It saved him. So far, nothing out of Brewery. BenCreighton picking up just 300 rupees there.
No, I do agree more with the choice to do Thieves Town first, which it appears we're going to see from Ben here. We did get the one item from the front of Skull Woods, so Phant is not too worried about coming back to Skull Woods anytime soon. Just needs the fire rod to do it, and it's going to be a 5-6 crystal, so that does give him some information about Pyramid Fairy, potentially.
BenCreighton going to go ahead and dip into Thieves Town. There's quite a few checks early on in Thieves Town, so I do quite like this one. And Thieves Town picking out the hook shot, though. Very nice grab for BenCreighton.
Well, with that, perhaps he'll be able to extend his lead over Phant here in the Dark World, and you know, maybe contract his way all the way to Blind. Not a whole lot of uses for it here in this dungeon specifically, but excellent to have for now, later, and I guess at any point, really.
A hookshot's always that item that you just love to find as early as possible because it just offers you so much utility, both moving throughout the world, getting extra checks, all sorts of things.
So another aspect of this is that, I mean, this is a pendant dungeon, so who knows how long we'll be in here total, but this does make Death Mountain a much more appealing decision to make. We don't have a logical means of accessing it, but you can do a dark room and get up there.
Absolutely. With the runners having hammer, I would not be surprised if either one of them going to check the Thieves' Town big chest, and possibly even killing Blind to see what item he drops.
Yeah, I do like the decision to go all in on this because it's happened too many times to everybody. It only needs to happen once, really. You know, you have something important on a pendant blind, and it's Ambrosia, so you know that there's going to be something there guaranteed. It makes it less likely that you'd be in like a hammer lock situation with the big chest, and we have the hammer already.
Absolutely.
Well, so all in all, it looks like a dead heat between these two. Phant does have the advantage of having done Skullwood's front already, so once we have that Fire Rod, we'll just need to kill Mothula. Ben has already done the Southern Dark World checks, starting from Hype Cave, so they may look pretty close together, but they made some pretty different decisions so far.
Yeah, it's still quite early in the seed to tell who is legitimately ahead as of yet. Just a little bit of advantage towards Phant with having done the Skullwoods, like you said.
I will say that Ben does stand to save some time over Phant if he manages to find the mirror before going to Palace of Darkness. That would actually be a really great boon to him.
Ben picking up a fairy from that anti-fairy. Give himself a nice little health refill.
Yeah, I would say that powder is probably the single best safety in the game. In an NMG run, this is typically where a lot of people would be getting powder if they're going to get powders, like right before Thieves' Town. And this dungeon's a great example of why. You have all these conveyor belts, all these spikes, these Zazaks, the Stalfos. So many things that can make Blind a much more dangerous fight than it needs to be.
Oh, absolutely. And if you're not very well versed with Blind's script, he can be a dangerous boss himself. He does a lot of damage, and he's quite unpredictable.
Now, I haven't been counting, but I'm pretty sure that small key leads to either a map or a compass. It looks like our two runners have remembered this.
That's exactly what I was wondering about as well.
And in a regular race, you know, you would see somebody go check that, that big chest, but Ambrosia, we know exactly what we're doing here. Oh, so Phant doesn't pick up the hard piece, or hard refill there. He doesn't want the sword beams. Alright, a little off script for Phant here, and for Ben. The second phase for Ben, first phase for Phant. The big thing is that they don't want Blind to cross the room. Scary situation here.
Oh, Ben taking an unfortunate death to Blind. One hit away, but he's got that fairy.
Yeah, that waterfall cave really paying off for him to remember that he can refill that bottle. And as it turns out, he did this right as he was killing the boss, so he was already going to be finishing it anyway.
Lucking out having picked up that fairy from Waterfall Cave.
Yeah, because that's the worst feeling. You get the kill, you don't get the crystal or pendant. Although I have to imagine he would not come back.
No, absolutely not.
Alright, well that puts Phant a little bit ahead in the relative on-stream what we see in front of us perspective. We'll see how the remaining route plays out for the two of these runners. I have to imagine, well, I thought they were going to go in the same direction, but
Diverging once again, yes. Ben heading up to do his Skullwood to the front, whereas Phant's going to go ahead and do their hammer pegs.
Well, at least we thought that's what Ben was doing, and then they saw the save and quit. There's their lamp. I have no idea what to expect from Ben here. That's a weird choice.
Yeah, we'll see if it pays off. It looks like he's going over to do his Eastern. Oh, maybe not even that. We'll see.
Like a Lake Hylia check on the way. Early Ice Palace? Yo, this is bold.
This could either play off very well for Ben or very poorly. Of course, needing either... he does have his Bombo, so he can clear out all of these enemies that I forget the name of right now. But...
Oh, the Freezors, yeah. So
Freezors, yes.
Bombos for Freezor are really the only item you can use for that. Cold Stare is a very difficult fight with Master Sword, Hammer, Bombos. I mean, you can do it. It's something you want to practice.
And of course, not having Cane of Samaria also making this a very interesting choice.
Yeah, it would be a little bit different to consider as well with the Cane of Samaria. We might be able to do that newer Icebreaker tech that just became legal via Racing Council today, interestingly enough, or at least in effect today. But he will be doing a full clear. I mean, there's no reason not to. You have all the items you require for it. It's just something that a lot of people avoid by nature.
Absolutely, and that might exactly be the reason he is going in there. He's just ripping the Band-Aid off, so to speak. Get it over with early, that way I don't have to worry about it late. Meanwhile, Phant is going to go ahead and do his Smith Chain.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice as well. He doesn't have a mirror, so he's going to have to do it through save and quit. That does follow a natural progression through the Southern Dark World, though. Phant will be heading, presumably, all the way to Hype Cave and then save and quit from there. Oh, okay. Not going to go all the way to Hype Cave. Phant opting to just take care of the Smith now, presumably... Or maybe he's going to go from the Hype Cave to there. I am so confused.
Ben lining up for the famous Ice Palace bomb jump. Missing
this is where that random sprite kind of stinks sometimes.
Taking on some unfortunate falls. Gonna go ahead and use their blue goo.
I am really impressed that he was able to get even that close on a bomb jump with such a weird sprite.
And finally getting it. And chat out there asking, yes, Ice Palace is technically full clearable right now. It is quite a bold play by BenCreighton, though, considering low hearts, Master Sword, Bombos. We'll see if it pays off.
Yeah, the tough part about this play for Ben is that he does not have a lot of health to work with. I mean, he might be able to refill his health in this dungeon. Will have, powder for the boss at least, right before the boss. So he will be able to get a full heal going into it. He could do, if he had a Fire Rod, he'd be able to do Master Sword's sword beams if he wanted, but not easy.
Especially having just used their blue goo for the bomb jump just now. That was a really unfortunate hit.
Well, with that bomb jump and the red cane here in Ice Palace.
Picking up the red cane here in Ice Palace.
Getting the hook shot in the bonk because either that's a setup for the bomb jump or he's describing his frustration with not being able to Icebreaker. I want to say it's the second, but it's probably the first. Well, that's awesome. Now we know the whole, logical chain here in Ice Palace is completely fine. Even if you needed the Cane of Samaria for some reason, which you won't because an item will be on Cold Stare, then you'd still be able to do it anyway.
BenCreighton really lucking out getting the Cane of Samaria at that point. We can just head straight to Cold Stare and end it off.
Yeah, the tough part about this is once you bomb jumped and you're used to full clearing and you have in your mind that, hey, I gotta check everything, once you have all the items, you might not even remember. that you can go straight to cold stair. So at this point, he needs a small key to get back over to the left.
Yeah, that seems to be exactly what BenCreighton just did, is he forgot, oh, there's only 2 items to get here in Ice Palace. I can go straight to cold stair.
He did get the key, though, so it looks like he's remembered. BenCreighton will actually make a pretty fast Ice Palace out of this, after all. To address the questions in chat about Icebreaker, Diver Down, all these nifty superhero-sounding names for skips, yes, those 2 are now legal as of today for League racing, as well as the Racing Council having decided yesterday, for general racing purposes.
In chat, bringing up something quite interesting, yes. It is quite ironic how the very first race after the legalization of Icebreaker gives you Red Cane at a point after where Icebreaker would be used.
Yeah, the nice thing, though, is that for some folks out there who don't really feel that comfortable with Ice Palace Bomb Jump, because it is a really finicky jump and it's kind of hard to do, that provides an alternative routing solution for the dungeon. We take advantage of a door state manipulation where Link is in the state he is when he's entering and exiting doors. That allows him to clip through certain collision. And that just saves us from 1 hammerlock check, really.
Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and get that cold stair fight, while Phant is going to go ahead and do all of their Eastside Death Mountain checks.
Yeah, would not have been very surprising to see this from either of our runners with the Death Mountain stuff, because, we've had that hookshot plus, Moon Pearl plus Titans and Hammer. You can do pretty much everything.
So far, BenCreighton doing a very good job against cold stair, having not even a single hit as of yet. Of course, I probably just gave him the commentator curse, but we will see.
We would hope not, but he is handling himself very effectively overall. We'll get to see a Paradox Cave as well from Phant. No items of note just yet. Wow, Ben is 1 collision away here.
Oh, taking an unfortunate death. Cold stair, of course, hitting very hard on Green Mail.
And Ben's doubling down on it. I'm very surprised to see him go after the boss again here.
Part of me does not want to blame him, but the logical side of me says, come back later. You've already cleared out the item, you got your Red Cane, come back when you have some more safeties, maybe Blue Mail, maybe Tempered, something like that. But another part of me also says, he did such a good job on that fight, he could probably do it. We'll see how it goes.
Part of me thinks he's doing this just so he can show off Icebreaker.
That is very true. We could definitely do an Icebreaker through now to get back to that point. It does save the time.
And that entire route that he already took is going to have all the doors open for him if he goes this way. Yep.
And he is attempting the Icebreaker. We will go ahead and get to see our very first legal Icebreaker in the Link to the Past Randomizer League.
So the basic gist of what we're doing here, when you're entering and exiting doors, the game doesn't want Link to be able to collide with anything because, it's better to clip through some... Ooh, that's a flute on the Ether tablet.
And BenCreighton going ahead and getting that Icebreaker on the first try. Nice, easy setup and execution.
Yeah, so we take advantage of that door state to clip through that wall. You have to use a Cane of Samaria block to put yourself in a very specific pixel that the game normally wouldn't let you be on to abuse that state.
Phant getting that flute, though, is a very nice pickup for Phant as well. Flute obviously gives you a lot more mobility around the map. It's just a very nice convenience item to have.
Alright, so if I recall correctly, Ben should have his big key here and should still be able to climb down.
Yes, he did get the big key, but unfortunately he's going to have to go the long way around.
Oh, he doesn't have a small key. He can get one from the next couple of... from this room here, but he can't get back through that door, I don't think. Oh, he's good. That switch did it. So he's got to remember which one of these has the small key. It's the top left corner. And he's good. Some slight panic going on, but his powder will put him in a good spot for the fight. Alright, in the meantime, Phant making fast work of Tower of Hera here. No Hera pod, being used. At least I didn't see it. He may have done it when I wasn't looking.
I do not think he actually did.
So he will have a full completion here. Moldorm here will have some sort of item as soon as he comes back up.
That's always the most heartbreaking feeling ever, is the moment you jump down the arena, Moldorm just says, "Get out of here! I don't even want to fight you right now."
I would much rather have it happen right away and not be center hole than, last hit.
Absolutely, that is very true. BenCreighton going in for Cold Stare 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Taking an unfortunate icicle hit, that does allow him to get hit once from a direct contact, and Moldorm down for Phant.
Ooh, just barely escaping with his life there. Meanwhile, Phant go ahead and clearing out Moldorm very handily.
I am sweating.
Yeah, I am definitely on the edge of my seat right now for this boss fight.
Ooh.
Oh, that unfortunate icicle hit.
Alright, so I think the sane decision here for Ben is to come back here with better equipment. This is a...
Absolutely, that's
fight.
exactly what he's going to do.
It's just not worth right now. To have even have received the red cane in the first place is already a pretty big win.
Absolutely, that was quite a bit of a time sink. We'll see if it really puts Phant super far ahead or not. Of course, that said, if Misery Mire is a Bombos entry, that does put Misery Mire in logic for Ben.
Yeah, he'll definitely be getting that flute from Ether before long. You see him on his way up to the mountain, so it's pretty much an inevitability, as Thanos once said, or he is inevitable, I don't know. But he's gonna get it.
Overall, very glad that Ben chose to leave from the Ice Palace. That was not a winning fight for him.
Alright, so that'll send him up to the mountain. Phant having done all of the Light World Mountain here in Super Bunny Cave now, and will be in the Hookshot Cave shortly. So Phant has really leapfrogged above and beyond BenCreighton's overworld checks overall. And Ben coming up empty as far as that crystal comes for the Ice Palace. There's our mirror.
Phant getting that mirror and shield. That mirror, very, very nice grab for Phant.
Yeah, pretty fortunate that we didn't need to do more inconvenient checks to get that mirror. Like, getting it right before Hookshot Cave, kind of nice. That is Ether to get into Turtle Rock, our green pendant today. I think both of these runners hoping they never find Ether.
Yeah, finding either that Ether or even that Ice Rod could start to make the runners sweat a little bit.
Sorry, did you say Ether the Ether? Or the Ice Rod?
Yes. Either the Ether or the Ice Rod.
Well, either that or that bow.
In the Hookshot Cave.
It took us a long time to get one.
Yeah, quite a long one.
I want to have a bow pun, but I'm all out of ammunition on this.
I'm gonna have to bow to that one.
Fair enough, fair enough. I'm pulling your string a little too hard on this. So we're gonna get a fire rod here, thanks to that mirror we just found. I see Chad's not a big fan of these puns. Well, Yodonashi, we have a fire rod. I think this means Skull Woods, right? You know, burn down
Yeah,
some.
absolutely. Completed that front side. It only makes sense to head over, do that back side, kill a moth. And then from there, Phant can do a lot of things, honestly. Of course, going to turn in that flute first.
I want to say that Phant has a good reason to be heading to ice now that he has the fire rod. That's a much more convenient cold stare fight. If anything, I would say that the cold stare fight alone is a reason to avoid, you know, Ice Palace before that.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll make a cold stare a lot easier. You know, you can stay a bit away from him instead of having to go up there and use those hammer strats. Ben, of course, going to pick up his flute right now off the ether tablet.
I would be very surprised to see Ben go back to Ice Palace at any point without grabbing potions first at this point.
Yeah, that's really all he was missing in both fights, is he was just a safety away from winning. Unfortunately, he went into both fights with no safeties.
I'll tell you what, though, it's an extremely difficult fight, and major props to Ben for going after that. There are a lot of people who are, you know, in advanced places in tournaments who wouldn't go for that.
Absolutely, he's much braver than I am.
Well, speaking of some bravery, looks like he wants to clip one pixel into a pot here in Tower of Hera. He's going to try and place his bomb correctly to give himself one pixel into it, and then use the hook shot to get in.
Using those pause buffers to give himself a little bit more adjustment. Meanwhile, we see Phant, as predicted, heading into the backside of Skull Woods. BenCreighton just missing his Hera pop, but gonna try it again.
Yeah, if you're wondering why he bonked there, he was attempting to do a dash turn, where you charge a dash and then turn around without actually doing the bonk. Unfortunately, he completed the dash, so that's twice in a row there. But he bonked instead of turning to position himself for the hook shot. It's kind of deceptively difficult. You know, a lot of people make it look easy, but there's a lot of precise movement involved.
Getting it on the third try. What's the old saying? Third time's a charm?
Well, at least with Cold Stare, third puff's the charm, I guess. Alright, Mothula fight for Phant now. The one remaining item of Skull Woods, and he's hoping for something big here.
And Mothula, of course, he is on green mail and only 5 hearts, so he's got to hope that these spikes and conveyor belt cooperate.
I'll tell you, this guy is probably not in good, you know, relations with Smokey the Bear. He is burning down everything, throwing fire rods left and right.
Oh, Phant going ahead and using his blue goo. I honestly forgot that he'd had that.
Yeah, I really don't remember when he got that. I wonder if that was a bottle they picked up.
That was a bottle that they picked up. I don't remember what the check was. Ben had it as well. Ben used it just before, or Ben used it for his Ice Palace bomb jump.
Well, now that both of our runners have Flute and Activated, I think it's very likely to see them both picking up potions before their next major dungeon traversal.
Ben has not actually activated his Flute as of yet. He only just picked it up.
Ah, then I imagine he'll probably go activate his Flute after he's done in the mountain here, and then probably buy potions, because, I mean, they both are very cash flush, but here comes a pedestal check from Phant.
Ben getting a very clean hammer strat Moldorm fight. And just some couch cash on the Ped, so let's get those emotes out there. Ped is dead.
Yep, you done killed the chat.
Well, we got a couple seconds here of downtime. I do want to encourage all of you out there in chat to go follow both of our runners. They are putting on this fantastic race, and both showing off a lot of skill. And then, of course, also be sure to head and check out our commentators. Somebody beat me to the command. I've been enjoying commentating a lot with Udai here. Excellent commentary. So be sure to go give them a follow.
It's been a pleasure, Yodonashi, and of course, a big thanks and shout-outs to Worldwide Wimpy doing our tracking today. An underrated and undervalued position within the broadcast team. This stuff keeps us, you know, level-headed, on the keel. We know exactly what's going on, providing a great value to you as the viewer.
Now, interesting choice here from Ben, on really going to come back to bite him. Ben did not do his Dark World Death Mountain checks, which we know from Phant is where he's going to find his fire rod at. Fire rod and the mirror. Thank you for correcting me. So that's going to put Ben quite a bit behind by not getting that. Oh, and the bow, correct. There's a lot of checks that Ben just missed up there in his Dark World Death Mountain checks, so... But gonna go ahead and pick up some potions. We'll see. This might be indicative of another Cold Stare run.
Yeah, either that or maybe like he might end up checking the Misery Mire area, trying to get some information. I could see that being a reason you'd want to come off the mountain. Even if he doesn't end up doing Misery Mire, like say it's Bombos or something like that, it would be good to know, say, before you go into certain longer dungeons that you might be able to exclude some checks from, like Swamp, which we're seeing from Phant here. Quake.
So we're gonna have to find another medallion before we can do anything in Misery Mire.
Not gonna lie, I was kind of expecting it to be under the doormat there. Well, this is tough news for Ben because without that mirror from Super Bunny Cave, can't check the, checkerboard cave, doesn't have, a lot of easy overworld checks that Phant will have pretty much for the rest of the race here.
Yeah, Phant pulling further and further ahead after that choice to do his Dark Mountain. Of course, he did head back up there, so we can assume he's going to do them now, but he did lose quite a bit of time by not doing them immediately after. Phant picking up a nice blue mail, though, in Swamp Palace. Always a nice safety to get.
Alright, so we have a possibility of a brand new legalized tech here in Swamp Palace. It'd be interesting to see both of our runners doing opposite. But it looks like Phant here is just going to go and pick up the key naturally. There is a rail clip that you can do using a... Oh, he doesn't have Samaria. Could you do it with bombs, I think?
You can do this. Diver down is possible with bombs, yes. In fact, for this specific one in this area for doing diver down, I think that it's a bit easier to do with bombs. The Samaria one is much easier to do on backside.
So to give some context to the folks out there who are wondering what in the world are these words you're saying, about diver down, icebreaker. So diver down is a rail clip that lets you jump into the lower layer where you see like the water on the ground for Phant walking through here. That's the lower layer of the game. He's just climbed into the upper layer. It allows you to take the upper layer to the bottom even when the water's full, allowing you to skip this whole backtracking thing that we do with the switch here. It actually involves some pretty interesting unloading of the bomb and the explosion, and then reloading it once you enter in the room with the key.
Yeah, all in all, it saves about 15 seconds if you're doing left side, and about 10 seconds if you're doing it on the back side of Swamp. It is very good, especially if you're a new runner and you accidentally drown the key. If you can somehow manage to pull off diver down, that can really bail you out.
Yeah, so what would typically be the thing for like 20 plus years that everyone would joke, oh no, you flooded the key. Now it's no longer a concern. I guess not for 20 years, since the randomizer came out, because you could not originally flood the key without the hook shot. Alright, well, we didn't see it here from Phant. I doubt we'll see it in the back half of the dungeon. I believe in discussions or watching Ben previously, he's probably not going to try to do it. But if he were, maybe the back half of the dungeon.
I do watch Ben quite a bit, as people probably have figured out by now. I am on Ben's team. I am part of the Land of the Blind. He is still learning Diver Down, but he has not actually successfully completed it yet, so I doubt that he's going to try risky it on Race Seed.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a highly volatile thing to gonna go first try for in a run. That is where the time save is, if you can nail it first try every time. So nothing that I personally am going to try and incorporate anytime soon, but something that you can absolutely get an edge over your opponents with.
Yeah, definitely. If it's a really close race like this one has been for the most part, you can for sure get in there and pull off a quick diver down and put yourself that 10 seconds ahead that might be the difference between the win. Of course, right now, with it being such a new glitch, not many people are very proficient in it. It's not worth really the risk in a race setting.
I have to imagine, though, as this league unfolds further and further throughout these weeks, we're going to see more and more incorporations of it.
Oh, absolutely, and especially as other modes start to become legalized for the league. One thing I have theorized is that when we start to see door rando become more prominent in the league, that could be very useful there, because there are 2 entire chests that you can get with Diver Down that if you just happen to find before you find that switch, very useful.
Yeah, we don't have door rando just yet for this season, but I can't imagine it's that far off. We have a Cross Keys week coming up here in a couple weeks, and Cross World Key Sanity already pretty nutty to begin with. I think it might just depend more on how prepared Entrance Rando is for like a main release by that point.
Absolutely. It's still a developmental mode. So let's see how things go. Phant getting to very low health on Argus.
He should be okay here with the Fire Rod, just has to position carefully for the second phase. Well, while Phant is finishing up his fight here, we'll get some new information from both him and Ben. Ben will be going to Armos Knights here to get an item. Here's the red mail from Phant on Argus, which is a really great find before you go to somewhere like, say, Ice Palace.
Absolutely, that's going to make Phant very tanky going into his other boss fights, especially having that red shield as well.
So the only item that we don't know about at this point that is required and guaranteed to be required is Quake. There's still some possibility of Quake being on something like Trinex, so we could still need the Ice Rod. But as of now, that Quake is really the only thing that's an unknown variable.
Phant gonna go ahead and check out Misery Mire, finding out that it's a Quake, so it's just gonna do the Misery Mire shed, and then probably head, well, after doing Checkerboard Cave.
Yeah, that's another piece of information we haven't had access to yet. Alright, so Desert Palace, Eastern Palace, Ice Palace, all that's left for Phant to check outside of, the Misery Mire we can't do.
Phant's gonna go ahead and finish Desert Palace.
I think I like this choice here and now. You're already in the area. There's not really a better time to do it. We've already done everything in the front.
Absolutely. It's no sense in orphaning this any longer. You're right here. Get it out of the way. Get whatever item's sitting there on Lambos.
Plus half magic Fire Rod feels pretty good.
Oh, absolutely. About the only way this fight can feel even better is if you had silvers.
Oh, come on. You don't like vanilla bow, regular bow, Lamolus?
Oh, I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just saying that silvers are even better.
Yeah, I think every NMG runner out there is maybe cringing a little bit when they hear regular bow Lamolus, because no matter how good you think you are at the fight, anything more than 3 cycles is pretty normal. Fire Rod and Silvers give you a chance at a 0 cycle, or I guess a 1 cycle if you prefer to call it that. And speaking of fast kills, BenCreighton here finishing off his Armless Knights with the Arrow to Spare for the gallery, I guess. Gonna just get bombs and a crystal. Yo, somebody's got to talk to Phant about how many errant fire rods this guy shoots. I mean, they're everywhere. And I'm not saying that to give him the business. It's just, doesn't he worry about the fire hazard?
I mean, at least he's in a room made of stone and sand. There's nothing really to worry about. But come on, before he was in a swamp, there's plenty of trees and foliage.
You know, that's a good point. The potential environmental risk. We're going to need to sit the sexy gans down and have a chat.
Ben's going to go ahead and do his Desert Palace now as well.
One more check that we did not get to see from Ben, who is also able to check it quickly now that he's back in the neighborhood. 20 rupees, nothing to write home about, but even just not being able to check a spot makes you more likely to spend time to come back there later. So that ends up being a net time loss for Ben, even though checking it would normally be time neutral. Ice Palace for Phant, similar equips to Ben when he went through, but now has the Fire Rod to work with. We will not see an Icebreaker from him unless things go south as they did for Ben.
Right now, Phant is in a pretty sizable lead, having already completed all of Swamp Palace as well. We'll have to see where Ben goes after completing Desert here. I think Swamp would be the logical option for him to go from here, unless he was to head up and try to do his Smith chain as well.
It's tough because so many things that he wants to do from here on out are very disconnected from each other. I mean, the Swamp to Skull route, I think, that you were describing just now is probably the most sensible continuous chain that, prevents a save and quit until the very end of it. Although our tracker pointed out the Skullwood Smith Swamp Palace chain would also be pretty appealing. Then you'd get Bombo's tablet at the end of it.
Absolutely, yeah. I forgot that Ben had not completed Skull Woods yet either.
Which, I mean, all things considered, shouldn't take him too long. There's only one item that you can get from the back. Ooh, finding out also, chap reminding us at least that Pyramid Fairy is on the table. So one thing that BenCreighton could do here is go Skullwoods all the way down to Swamp and then take that to the Pyramid Fairy. We would not have the Easy Castle Bridge portal, but it would still work. You could do all of that without even a save and quit.
Very, very true.
Either way, though, represents a lot of time sink or time required to do all of those checks. At this point, Phant just needs to get to the end of this dungeon, wrap up Eastern Palace, and then find that Quake somewhere. And I gotta think that Quake is really the one remaining thing that can help Ben pull his way back into the seed.
Absolutely. Like our tracker, Worldwide Whippy, pointing out, Ben's real big misstep here was leaving the mountain to go activate Flute rather than doing his Dark World Death Mountain checks.
A way that could have paid out for him is if Misermire area had something of value that would have helped with the rest of Death Mountain. We just knew that we had everything we needed for Death Mountain once you did the Super Bunny Cave. So, like, Misermire area mirror would have been nice.
Phant headed straight into his Cold Stare fight, knowing that he's already got one of the two items in his dungeon after having picked up Cane of Samaria.
Well, must be feeling pretty confident with the red mail. Phant not going to turn around to grab some powdered anti-fairy as a snack on the way in.
Having that red mail, half magic fire rod, I don't blame him at all. This should be a quick wipe up match for him.
Smartly saving some magic by using Bombos. It is a little slower overall, but not much, to the point where you may as well save the magic. Oh boy.
Unfortunately missing the spin there to get Cold Stare corner locked. Taking a few hits off of the icicles.
He has the magic to do it, but this is still kind of scary for this last one. Okay, he had one more shot. And that is not Quake. It's not even Bombos, it's bombs. Oh.
I think that was a little bit of a stretch. I get you were going for an explosive joke, but fell a little short.
Sometimes the fuse isn't quite what you expected it to be. BenCreighton operating on a no deaths allowed here, Mothula strat. Gonna take his blue potion to fight him and continue to hopefully burn him all the way down. This has been a really rude fight.
Yeah, Ben in quite a similar situation to what Phant was, having low hearts, only green mail, but still having that blue goo to be able to wrap up the fight.
Alrighty, time to start exploring some pendant dungeons for Phant, and this is really BenCreighton's best opportunity to get back into this race. Any pendant dungeon exploration that doesn't lead to Quake will be a boon for him.
Chat already saying it, what we're all worried about. Dare I hope Quake on Trinex?
It's not out of the question. It's entirely still possible. We do not have an ice rod, so this would become a multiple item hunt if that is the case. Which, you know, I mean, for the viewer, maybe that's pretty entertaining. For the racer, it's terrifying.
Phant gonna go ahead and clean up their Eastern Palace and then presumably dip into Pod. Pod has so many checks that it's always a great area to check out.
And honestly, not a ton of things remaining otherwise. You got the Graveyard Ledge. What other mirror locations have we not touched? K45?
K45, and I think that's about it. Bombos Tablet.
Yeah, I want to say somebody's looked at Bumper Ledge at this point, but maybe not. And then we would have Spike Cave.
Spike Cave, of course, being quite a scary proposition considering we don't have any invulnerability item.
This is like a lot of locations that are absolutely awful to check. And those are kind of terrifying for how few things we need. I mean, if we find that Quake, we're set. But if we find an Ether and an Ice Rod, or just one or the other, you start really sweating. Did we see a purple chest get turned in? Because we didn't have the mirror till late.
We did not. Phant did his Smith chain early on with save and quit rather than a mirror, and Ben has yet to do the Smith chain.
So these are a couple of different locations that BenCreighton will get an early look at that will almost certainly not be seen by Phant. He's going to take the time to look at Bumper Ledge now, which I agree with. I mean, if there's a time to do it, it's after Skullwoods. Just 20 rupees.
Just 20 rupees. So go ahead and head down. Probably to Graveyard Ledge at this point.
Yeah, I really like this decision. If he ends up saving and quitting out of this, he'll probably go back to Village of Outcasts and then head south from there. As that seems to be the logical chain that, you know, the writing's on the wall. All of us in chat and in comments have agreed that that's probably the best case for him. Well, is this it? Is this basically Ben's go mode here, or are we going to continue looking? Phant picking up another crystal, down to just Misery Mire.
Getting a piece of heart in Graveyard Ledge. We are still looking for that Quake.
Ben keeping his portal, presumably to head... oh, goodness, is he going to go to Palace of Darkness? Oh, Catfish, that was still not checked. And the Pyramid.
Catfish being, of course, a check that a lot of runners try to avoid because it's so out there by itself and doesn't like to give very much ever. But at this point, when you're on a medallion hunt, it's worth it.
So I guess the real question that I'm asking in the back of my mind is, like, do you go to check the pyramid before you grab the Pyramid Fairy Bomb? I mean, because you're probably coming back anyway.
I personally would probably end up getting the Pyramid Fairy Bomb, because that's the other thing, is that Ben still has not done his swamp, which is full clearable. So it would make sense for him to go down there, get his swamp, take the Pyramid Fairy, and then check Pyramid.
Well, bad news for Ben. Quakefish not being his vanilla keeper. We'll end up saving and quitting, actually, because that's a pretty significant time save to come back this way. So I think he is thinking about the big bomb first, as you mentioned.
It looks like he's going to go ahead and do his Swamp Palace and then take and check the Pyramid.
So Yodonashi, do you think that Phant goes all the way to Helmasaur King in this dungeon?
Well, we do know that Helmasaur has an item. At this point, we're on a medallion hunt, and both these racers know that. Knowing that there's an item on the boss really entices you to go all the way.
Because this is one of those scenarios in my mind where Phant, having done just about everything, he might even feel behind at this point. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
even though
Both these racers are probably sitting there thinking they're behind and probably watching their hex chat, just waiting for the other one to come in and hit their done or their IRC client, whatever they use, to be like, yeah, I couldn't find the medallion.
Yeah, it's an uncomfortable position to be in. So we'll see both of them continuing to check everything they can. It looks like BenCreighton's going to finish Swamp, then do the Pyramid Fairy, as we talked about. We'll have Bombos on the table, on the tablet. Not on the tablet. He'll have the Bombos tablet on the table.
And I do like this play. I think this is the best play for him. It's got the best routing for it. Checking Pyramid Fairy, or Pyramid before coming down here and doing this, while it is a play, I think that this is the better option.
Yeah, given exactly the density here in Swamp Palace. Having heard that from you, I agree with you, Yodonashi, on this one. So we'll get Phant heading here towards the back of Palace of Darkness. Heard some murmuring and chat about auto stairs being a thing. There is a new skip you can do to avoid this peg block at the top of those stairs, but not seeing it now, not going to worry too much about it. You might have seen it in the festive seed from this winter as part of that puzzle room. But besides being a Kana Samaria exploit, there's not too much more to it.
And unfortunately for my own entertainment, we did not see a attempt even at a hammer yump from Phant. I am still like in awe of that glitch ever since I've seen it for the first time, and I just love seeing anybody do it.
Bufferless or bust, that's my philosophy on it, but even just opening the door is valuable, even if you're not planning on doing the jump, your first time through.
Now the question is going to be here is if BenCreighton takes the time to go and do left side swamp, because we did see that Phant checked it and there wasn't really anything there. If Ben takes a risk, does not check left side swamp, it might be a good time save.
Yeah, it's a really tough thing to do. I mean, because you have to knowingly be like, all right, I might be leaving behind the game-winning item here. But
and it looks like that's exactly what he's going to do too. Left side swamp takes up about an estimated roughly about a minute, actually, so it does save a.
Yeah, that's a healthy chunk of time.
1 minute to 1.5 minutes, something like that.
Of course, pending, your execution as an individual, everybody's, got different equipment and stuff like that. Having the boots, it's a little bit mitigated, but even being able to do it at all is huge.
Yep, and it does look like we're going to go ahead and see Phant go all the way to Helmasaur, just like we predicted, because of having that item there. We're still on that medallion hunt, so it only makes perfect sense.
And we know for a fact that Phant here doesn't want this, pendant for the sake of pedestal. He's already checked the pedestal, so he's knowingly going for specifically the item on the boss. And we'll see nearly simultaneous fights, it looks like. BenCreighton just a couple of screens away, as Phant is probably a few more screens away from his fight. Well, it might seem a little lopsided for a little while here, but Ben's just one crystal behind Phant, and that's an Ice Palace boss kill at that.
Yes, and we've already seen BenCreighton demonstrate that fancy new icebreaker, so getting to Cold Stare won't even take him that long.
Yeah, fast even by Ice Palace boss kill standards. I want to correct, I said he was one crystal behind. He will be one crystal behind shortly.
Unless something goes horribly wrong here on Argus.
Yeah, with 11 hearts and the situation he's in, hopefully nothing will, but you never know. Any fight can surprise us. Sword spins to finish it out. Phant has all the equipment he really needs here. The second phase may be a little more annoying for Helmasaur with only Master Sword, but that might just be some sword hits, or sorry, hammer hits for the Jewel in the front. Yep, sword slashes instead. Perfectly viable strat. 8 of them total will finish this fight off, or maybe it's 6. I might have missed something there. But that is a pendant down for Phant. What is it going to be behind Helmasaur King?
Just a piece of heart.
The Quake hunt continues.
At this point, I'm going to start guessing that Quake is going to be on Green Pendant.
We're running out of places to find it. And an ether necessary to get to that point in the first place. Probably would be finding an Ice Rod in Turtle Rock at this point. Still some locations left to check. Big Bomb here for BenCreighton. Bombo's tablet, I don't know if we actually saw.
We did not. Ben did not take the time to head over to Bombo's tablet. Instead, he's going to go straight up to do his Pyramid and Pyramid Fairy.
Interestingly enough, it looks like Phant's is on the same track here. Probably going to go turn in the Big Bomb, so it would take a pretty hefty... yeah, it would have to be like Ether here for Ben to have a chance to pull ahead, because then, you know, Turtle Rock could be some kind of big time diversions. You know, there might be a chance for Ben to find the Quake somewhere else, but Phant would absolutely be heading to Turtle Rock if he finds that Ether here.
Just 300 rupees there on the Pyramid ledge.
Oh no, just love.
Absolutely nothing but love in the Pyramid Fairy.
Yeah, our other fairy today gonna give us green potions. So green potions and fairies on the table for our bottle turn-ins. Nothing that we really care too much about, but it doesn't hurt to have an extra green potion, particularly if we ever find the Cape or Berna.
At this point, it might not hurt Ben to do a Smith Chain, in which he routes in Bombo's tablet into its Smith Chain after he turns in the purple chest.
Yeah, actually, I kind of think that's the way to go here. It's starting to look pretty much like it's going to be on Bombos or Purple Chest. I mean, we're running out of places to check for the overworld here.
We also, of course, have not seen K45 from either runner as of yet.
Let alone Spike Cave. So, what, 4 things left, and Ben will be heading back in to finish off Cold Stare. Phant really needs to find the Quake or whatever leads to Quake real soon. Catfish not going to do it.
Yeah, it looks like Phant's going to go ahead and do their Eastern Dark World and then North Dark World checks that BenCreighton already did. Check out Catfish, then maybe swing over and check out Graveyard Ledge.
These are all the components Ben needs. With a good icebreaker here, he'll be back in the hunt, really pretty much on par with Phant. And it'll be pretty much a toss-up as to who's ahead. Whoever finds that Quake has the de facto lead at this point.
The best thing that Ben could do right here, of course, he doesn't know this, and the likelihood of him doing it is very low. Skipping Palace of Darkness. But the problem with that is Palace of Darkness has a ton of checks. That really entices a lot of runners to go there no matter what. And if Ben skips Palace of Darkness, just like that, he's right back there with Phant. But if he goes there Palace of Darkness, he's going to find out that that's a massive time sink. Hopefully he goes and does a Smith Chain first.
Well, there's a chance for it. He pulls off a second back-to-back first try icebreaker to get him down to Cold Stare even faster. That's a huge time save, actually, to be able to do that so quickly. As we already saw from the previous attempt at icebreaker, he has already unlocked all these doors. This is a very straightforward descent.
One good reason why he might skip Palace of Darkness, though, thinking about it now, though, is he has Eastern. So, you know, Palace of Darkness is kind of orphaned. So what he might do is use his flute to head over, do his Smith Chain checks, and then if that doesn't play off to anything, go ahead and do the Palace of Darkness.
I do think that he's probably hitting Smith Chain next, just for how unappealing, you know, a pendant pod would be in this situation. You mentioned 6 items, you know, it's hard to argue with that. But seeing as he hasn't touched Smith Chain, I think that's a fairly likely thing for him to do. We're going to find out here, though, after this Cold Stare fight. He's got the Cane of Samaria to get into it the easy way. Lots of health, red mail, potions to spare. Should be good for this one.
Someone out there in chat saying something I've been thinking for quite a while now. It's actually quite shocking, the lack of real items on bosses so far. None of the bosses have really given us anything that give progression or even utility. They've just been giving piece of hearts, rupees, things like that.
We've seen quite a few bombs today.
Yeah, am I correct in saying that the best boss drop so far has been red mail off of Argus?
Well, there's our 6th crystal for Ben, as Phant doing the thing that we probably want to see Ben do, which is, for the interest of a close race, we're seeing that purple chest. He's actually going to walk all the way down to turn it in, so we're assuming he's going to check the Bombos tablet as well.
And Ben just now showing who's the real cold stare here.
You got to set him straight. Something about peeing in snow, he's yellow.
K45 just having a bottle. Still no Quake Hunt. Or still Quake Hunt continues. Still no Quake. And Ben doing exactly what he needs to do, where he heads off to his Smith chain.
Yeah, this is tough, because, that does pretty much de facto put Phant ahead of him by basically the length of the Smith chain, or most of it. Even if it's not here, very incredibly likely to be going check Spike Cave after. So I would probably put this at a few minutes advantage for Phant, which is potentially the realm of GT routing, potentially the realm of a Master Sword Ganon fight. Oh, he's not checked Hype Cave yet. This is interesting.
Forgetting that for a second that he can't take his friend, the Purple Chest, into caves with him.
Although I have to imagine Phant's not going to be too disappointed to find that, this wasn't a painful thing to isolate. Might be frustrated at how there's nothing in here, though, but, at least it didn't hurt.
Yeah, Ben going to go ahead and do their hammer pegs in order for him to go ahead and grab his lamp.
It took a while, but that's some good information to have late in the race. You at least know, hey, this is what I was supposed to have done, this is what I was able to do. Just kind of like a nice bow to tie in your logic. Alright, purple lunchbox, what's it gonna be?
Come on, Gary, give us something good.
Ether!
There's that ether! Oh no! And at that point, Phant has gotta be just cringing very hard, because that puts Turtle Rock in logic. We will see when we get off of Bombo's tablet.
That's awesome news for Ben, but Quake here could actually be devastating for Ben, as there are people out there who would not take the time to check this first. I don't know if Ben would fall for that, but there's Silver's. An excellent find.
Silver's always great to get, yes. Ben, forgetting for half a second that he's got the purple chest, cannot do dashes. And Phant wasting no time, gonna head straight up to do that Turtle Rock. Now at this point, Ben will probably view Turtle Rock if he... I'm not quite sure if he knows about it being an ether entrance, but if he does, he'll probably view Turtle Rock as more meritable than Palace Darkness, simply because of it being the green pendant.
Yeah, there is extra value there. You probably don't expect your opponent to have checked it very early, knowing that this is ether behind a whole bunch of items that we've already been up to the mountain, and cleared that out. So, yeah, it looks more, approachable. This is kind of a moment of truth for Ben, though. Do we get those silvers? Do we maybe consider Spike Cave before going in? I would say that Spike Cave feels very unappealing to do first, just because of the almost certain saving quit to follow.
Oh, absolutely. Especially since we don't have any invulnerability. The racers may be able to get to the back of Spike Cave. Getting out, though, not going to happen.
All right, well, a climb of the mountain separates the two of them as Phant enters into Turtle Rock at 1 hour 29 minutes. Ben just fluting up to the mountain now.
And just like we spoke about, Ben going to go ahead and go towards Turtle Rock rather than towards Palace of Darkness. Overall, the right play. Ooh, getting a nasty Dead Rocks placement.
Well, we find a key in the bottom left chest of Turtle Rock, not necessarily forcing us to the right side, but I don't think anybody in this situation skips the right side hoping for a key configuration. You never want to leave the big key over here.
Yeah, absolutely not. This is... At this point, you're in a situation of you check everything. You need that Quake. That is the only thing keeping you from go mode. You do every check you can.
Yeah, it is just this and Spike Cave that is not known about, or known quantities to us in the commentary booth. Phant has done virtually everything. With not having spent the time in the extra cold stair fights, does have a natural lead here, but it's not exactly insurmountable. In fact, they're almost at a baton toss here, or pass, so to speak, because they're almost taking a high five.
Absolutely, you know, a botched Trinex fight or a unfortunate fall to Ganon. Any of those things can be the difference in who wins out on this seed so far.
Going for some golf strats here from Phant. Exciting to see. Unfortunately, the wrong placement, but there's our Tempered Sword. An excellent
Very
find
nice
here in
grab.
Turtle Rock for both runners.
Eliminating the spin strats Ganon.
Yeah, that's true. We did find the silvers just a moment ago. I almost forgot about that. Well, I did forget about that. So Tempered Silver is a pretty comfortable fight. Takes away some of the guesswork of the separation between two runners on execution. 1+1 cycle may be a factor. Certainly more of a factor than, say, your Master Sword strats, which are no longer relevant. The other upside here is that everything in Turtle Rock becomes more comfortable. Your sword spin strat against, oh geez, watch it, Phant. Your sword spin strat against Hokuboku, for example, those pokies, is going to be considerably more friendly when you have a Tempered Sword.
Ben unfortunately missing his torches, so having to go on the full ride here.
Yeah, arguably time that he can't afford to lose here, but at the same time, it's not like Phant is without execution mistakes so far in this dungeon, so I mean, there's definitely still a lot of time for a potential lead change.
Oh, absolutely. These runners are very close, quite neck and neck, honestly. It's been very fun to watch, considering how far exactly Ben was behind for quite a while there.
Are you saying that they might end up tri-neck and tri-neck?
I was going to try to make a joke there, but my brain moved at a turtle's pace.
Fair enough. Well, cool guys don't look at explosions, so they definitely don't want us to menu when we get to that point. We do not have Ice Rod, though, to even be considering it. So Laser Bridge potentially on the table for that. We'll find out whether or not we get our Ice Rod there. I like the choice from Phant here to check the big chest first before Mimic Cave, is if you were to find the Quake there, you'd be out of here.
Ben, go ahead and pick up his Tempered Sword. Probably loving life getting that. And there's our Quake Medallion. Phant is in go mode.
Just over 1 hour, 33 minutes. It's going to be a minute or two before Ben gets out that direction. And whether or not he checks Mimic Cave first is, actually a factor here.
And the best part about that for Phant is a quick, easy access to Overworld Light. You get on that flute, head straight down to Misery Mire.
Folks, we have a race. This is going to be very close. This is actually down to something like GT routing. Presuming, of course, the two of them have a safe and comfortable Misery Mire. At this point, a God Mire would be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. A Godmire would be astounding to get for any of these racers.
Alrighty, well, I didn't see whether or not Phant properly set up the spooky action glitch using the flute on the way in, so that could also be a factor here. There's 10 seconds you can save in the basement if you are smart with using that ancilla variable. And, you know, how you end up using items in the dungeon impacts that as well.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with the spooky glitch, so I couldn't actually answer that. But make a short look at these wizrobes in Misery Mire 2.
I guess I'll give a brief overview of it. Basically, every single sprite that you spawn in the game is called an ancilla. You know, stuff like your boomerang, sparkles, your sword beams, your bombs, your lamp, even the fire rod, and the splash damage is a separate part of that. It uses a reference point off of the sprite's data that you can store and not have overridden from where the bird appears on the screen when you flute, which is also an ancilla. So we can abuse that to hit a switch through a wall in the basement.
Fair enough. Ben is going to go ahead and skip his big chest and go straight into Mimic Cave.
Well, that's a time save for him. Interesting choice. Ben actually taking a moment to contemplate his go mode. And that puts him approximately 2 minutes behind total.
And also slightly better portal placement than what Phant had. Ben taking the second to put the portal off to the side so he doesn't have to take the time on the mirror animation back out to Light World for his flute to work.
I also didn't notice you set up Spooky, so neither of these two runners necessarily going to be able to save the 10 seconds in the basement. Phant probably can't, Ben might be able to. We'll see if either of them use powder, they will override that variable. So we want to not hopefully use that until the end of the dungeon. For those of you asking about how you set it up, you just want to manipulate the camera so the bird leaves the screen at a certain point. So you like stand below the rock for the portal of Misery Mire. There's our big key, Phant having to go all the way to the left torches. Thankfully not the cutscene chest for it. That'll be enough to get him towards Vitreous here, which we're pretty well equipped for.
Yeah, it's always nice going into a Vitreous fight having Silvers and Red Mail. He's one of the bosses that does quite a bit of damage, and now you can just kind of look at him and laugh a bit.
Yeah, so an automatic opportunity for a zero cycle, which would be considerably more difficult doing damage boost strats. We'll see if either of these two can pull off a zero cycle. The lightning attack is pretty slow. Looks like, yeah, Phant doesn't have what we need for a spooky action glitch, so we will still have to bomb the wall in the room following this one that he's entering into now. That plus the torch in the third room, and the, not the torch, the crystal switches in this room and the third room, all time intensive. BenCreighton, having checked the right side looking for the Godmire, does have an opportunity to very quickly sniff out the big key if he doesn't try to get this center, I guess you want to call it arena chest, on top of those gratings. We'll see here in a moment if he saves time and routing. Switching to Fire Rod. Oh, he's going to save some time in the route.
This is a very neck-and-neck race. This has been one of the best races I've watched in quite a long time, or commentated either. I mean, both of these racers, very skilled racers, and just the level of skill in the fact of their routing, their boss executions, their logic reading. It's been very exciting to watch.
Well, I'd even say they went from tri-neck to tri-neck, and now they're eye-to-eye seeing with their routes.
I do not see where you were going with that one.
This is really doubling down to be quite the spectacle. All right, so here's the big opportunity for time save as Phant finishes up the, well, let's do our game, actually. There's 22 item locations in Gin's Tower. And where do you think it's going to be, folks? Get your guesses into chat. There's a small window before Phant gets into the tower to cut it off. Where do you think we're going to find it today, Yodonashi?
I always get 17. That's where I'm going to go for again. Yep, but you know what? Law of averages, eventually it'll work.
Fair enough, and sticking to your guns, definitely something that pays off in Randomizer. So BenCreighton here will get the spooky action glitch on the first room, having some trouble with the sprite placement, but will still save time on the actual bomb activation of that switch. Needs to hit a torch here in the middle of the room to get the last one. We'll watch out for that bunny beam that will save probably 6 seconds overall from Phant.
And
That's
Ben
exciting.
did in fact get the spooky action on that last room. Gonna go ahead and kill Vitreous and then head up the mountain himself.
This is so exciting. These little time saves are doing a lot for BenCreighton here. These are things that will basically make him have a little more flexibility in Gan's tower. Even if he doesn't route better, he could still potentially out-execute.
This is one of those races that's shaping up to come down to the wire. It's going to be within seconds of each other finishing. And by seconds, I do mean up to 30 seconds. I'm not saying that, like, oh, it's going to be 48, 49, that kind of thing.
Well, we've seen it a lot this week, where a lot of folks have been coming undone by the time they get to GT after all of the ups and downs of these Ambrosia seeds. Races that, start off super far apart or end up super far apart, getting up to GT, end up becoming close. Close races become distant out of nowhere. We won't know about the end time until we get to that point, but as of right now, as you mentioned, Yodonashi, it is shaping up to be an incredibly close race.
You also have to think about the potential of mindsets of our individual racers. So you got to think about it from Phant's perspective. Phant did pretty much everything. Phant cleared all the dungeons. Phant really last location, the Quake. The only thing that Phant didn't do was kill Trinex. BenCreighton, however, took a few gambles, skipped a few areas, and those gambles paid off. So Phant right now might be thinking that he's behind. Phant might be getting into his own headspace, thinking, "Oh my goodness, I last locationed this stuff when it was right here." Whereas Ben might be thinking, "Oh my goodness, these gambles have paid off." We'll see what happens.
And you got to think that Ben's had this, whole Ice Palace scenario kind of lingering in his mind as well. So, like, some things working out, some things not. The early routing with Eastern Palace, with who goes where when. He did find those boots early. So, I mean, like, I think I would expect most opponents to probably check Eastern before Desert in that scenario if I were in Ben's shoes.
Absolutely. Both racers will probably have things eating away at them, but they also both have things that are making them think, this works out very well for me.
Well, that is 6 checks so far here for Phant. Having a little bit of trouble with opening the wrong chest first in the compass room will probably make his progression here a little bit slower. And he's going to leave the right side to head to the left. So if Ben goes straight left, we'll be very, very close.
Ben heading to the right side, yeah. Phant not even taking the time to pick up that blue cane on the torch. No, need it. Why waste the seconds?
2 keys. It's very common to continue right here, so Ben's not going to save any time on his GT route so far. Phant going all the way to the Stalfos room here on the left. Will continue left if we don't find it here. $10 down, or I'm sorry, 11 with the torch. So Phant continuing. My guess at 12. Probably unlikely.
Well, your guess just as likely as anybody else's guess at this point in time.
There's the optimist. That's why we need you on mic for this stuff. We need optimism in the booth.
That Stalfos Knight getting in the way for the hook shot.
All right, so one other thing that could work out for Ben here, if we don't find this big key on the anywhere but on the regular left side, there's still a chance it could be on Armos. But BenCreighton is going to continue far to the left here, so Phant does have a natural advantage throughout this GT. Will very likely, unless something goes very wrong, be the first to find the big key. Whether or not that translates to a victory today, depends on whether or not he keeps his lead with execution, because this is his race to lose at this point. But it's not done till it's not done.
Absolutely. It's, like we were saying, a very close race so far. It's really going to come down to execution. Finding that big key just now. Which chest number was that? Somebody else keep a track for me? I was not.
That double fire bar was 12. Where was that exactly?
That was 13. That was chest 13.
What's sad is I would normally pick that, but no big deal. Chest 13 being the guess from Automatic 13. Wow. That's an on-brand guess. I'm here for that.
Hey, it plays off sometimes. Ladies and gentlemen, though, for the first time today, and let's go ahead and kill a pig.
Yeah, we've kept you. Well, these runners have kept you waiting long enough. An hour and 45 minutes into this race, they are ready to climb the tower. BenCreighton soon to find it off of this hookshot blocked, or even a bomb jump if you're really crazy. Hookshot locked chest here on the left side. Phant heading up to the gauntlet now. An hour 45 in, folks. If you haven't had an opportunity to check these runners out on their Twitch channel, what are you waiting for? Check out the command you're going to see here shortly in chat.
And as we head up the tower to go kill a pig, once again, please go ahead and follow our runners. They put on an amazing race for us today. Somebody had already put out the command out there in the chat. Also, I want to give a huge thank you to our tracker, Worldwide Wimpy. And I also want to thank my fellow commentator, Udai, over here. It's been quite enjoyable. Not often do I get somebody else willing to make puns with me. So
feelings mutual, Yonashi. Hopefully we can find one or two remaining here in the gauntlet. Actually, speaking of gauntlet, Phant having a pretty good progression through it. Gauntlet 3 and 4 here cleared with relative ease. On to Gauntlet 5. You can tell that the community totally has creativity in their room naming conventions, as the next one's not Gauntlet 6, interestingly enough. But we will have a Lamolus 2, which, again, not very well named. So that's what, like 7 or 8 total rooms that Phant has over BenCreighton here. It's going to take either some really big troubles with, well, I mean, this is a 3-cycle Lamolus, but big troubles with this and Aghanim 2 or maybe Moldorm 2 for Ben to be
at this point. Yeah, at this point, the only way the Phant's going to really get behind is Phant taking an unfortunate death is about the only way that Ben could catch back up and get that win.
Now, that was a huge time sink for Phant in that Lamolus fight. It ended up being a 4 or 5 cycle. It was the lag of the silver arrow is not helping at all either. So that will give Ben an opportunity to get to within a few rooms striking distance. As you mentioned, Phant could die. There's 4.5 hearts remaining with red mail. It's not that bad. But that does put you in the territory of riskiness with Ganon, so I would not be surprised to see a powder coming up here shortly.
Yeah, absolutely. Phant getting a very clean 2 Wizrobes rooms. Very nicely executed.
Yeah, we'll switch to the lamp for these torches. Might not have been necessary. He does have a small magic decanter ahead, but he might be trying to save for the torches 2 room. Ben setting up for silver arrows. Lamolus gets it in 1 cycle.
Very clean.
We will see Phant take the full magic refill to just be safe here in the torches. Does also prevent the chime glitch, which can happen if you enter the door at the same time as the previous room's door closes, which would despawn all the sprites. Be a bad news bears situation.
Yeah, and all in all, this is where we get to really see those small time saves that Ben managed to pull off that Phant just slightly, and how much they can make a difference in the time. You know, Ben has caught up immensely. While just a bit ago he was over a minute behind, he's now within 60 seconds of Phant.
Yeah, this is the territory of a couple of rooms. Moldorm 2 here getting a spin, it looks like, from Phant, or maybe a poke. With the second spin, he's in good shape to finish that up. Doesn't really have a whole lot to be checking this last chest for, but maybe a health refill if he wanted to. And almost gets it. So between that and the bunny beam hitting him in the last restock room, Phant giving up some precious seconds here. This bumper is probably not going to help him either.
Now, this is where you can see things are really getting down to the wire. Phant is probably just rushing, trying to be like, I don't know if I'm ahead, if I'm behind. Same thing with BenCreighton. You know, both these racers are right there on the wire where they're thinking, we've gone as fast as we possibly can. It's anybody's game right now.
Well, these this Aghanim is actually almost a double-triple setup. We're going to see double-double for Phant here, but both of them possible. That would be incredible to see Ben do it. A 3-cycle Aghanim is already fast, but it is a potential 2-cycle with a really great setup. Ben having some rough times with Moldorm 2. This is the worst time for him to take a fall.
Yeah, unfortunate fall for Moldorm 2 there for BenCreighton. Meanwhile, Phant's going to go ahead and head into their Ganon fight.
All right, well, this is still a commanding lead for Phant. Presuming that the fight goes as normal, as scripted, so to speak, we'll have the same warp patterns as Ben. Has all of the reasons to, you know, secure this victory as long as he's able to have a consistent fight here.
Ben not going for the hook shot strategy on his push blocks right there. Not really saving him any time doing that.
Yeah, thankfully it's not the biggest time invest, but I mean, any little time save right now is pretty critical. Phant actually getting a 2+1 cycle here, it looks like, or maybe 2+2 for Ganon. So these are opportunities for Ben to potentially have great execution and catch up a bit. Not going to be able to do so with the current Aghanim fight. I don't know if the first cycle was a triple, but he needed it to be in that situation.
Yeah. Unfortunately, going to have to go into another cycle with Aghanim.
So looking to be 3 extra cycles for Aghanim over Phant for BenCreighton. So at this point, it takes a Ganon fall to catch back up. There are no silverless strats to worry about here. Phant is just a slash, or maybe 5 slashes, or 4 slashes, depending on how the next phase goes, and a 4 bow and arrow shots. 3 down from here, he's going to get his torch glitch.
Yeah, very good execution of the torch glitch right there. Many runners having to use a lot more magic to get that torch lit in time. Phant, not even sweating. He just walks out to it, puts out 3 puffs from his lantern, and it's good to go.
Man, I'm sweating. He got real close to some of those fire bats, but that should be enough for Phant to finish this out in first place.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, that gives Phant an official SRL time, once he walks over this bridge here, of 1 hour, 51 minutes, and 57 seconds. Phant is the winner of today's race. Yeah, what an incredible race. It really came down to the wire here.
Well, we'll look to see if we can get both of these two in for an interview. I imagine Ben's probably finishing this up shortly thereafter, so we're going to hold off on bringing Phant in for just a moment here while we watch BenCreighton's Ganon fight. It looked to be a 1+1 cycle there. Really nice execution here at the beginning of this fight.
Absolutely. Phant is in the other Discord room, so let's see here if we can get him to join on in. Hey, Phant!
Hello, everybody.
First of all, congratulations on your run. Excellent race. Excellent race.
Oh, I'm glad it came off that way. I was nervous the entire time.
Yeah, we quite enjoyed it. This is one of the best races I've watched in a long time.
I'm really happy for that, Ben. Yeah.
So, I gotta ask if you have any thoughts on the seed.
It's always rough, when you last location an item. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm 99.99% sure that purple chest was like the little check in my game that could have had something, at least in logic. And I was sweating bullets when I saw that on that location, because I was thinking of really doing that very early on. I did the smith very early, trying to just be as efficient as possible with those. early Dark World checks and just kind of put off Purple Chest until the end. But outside of that, I think it was a pretty straightforward seed. Everything was on Death Mountain, and then that pretty much led you to the end, outside of Purple Chest being a little out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. You had some very good execution in there. You were actually quite a bit ahead for most of the seed. It wasn't until your Palace of Darkness dip that Ben started to catch up a bit. But, of course, here, let's go ahead and get Ben in here as well. Because he is ready to go.
And I have no doubts that BenCreighton here has plenty of thoughts and opinions about this race for how close it was. GG, Ben. This was really a treat to watch. You showed us some new things, too.
Yeah, everybody, thank you for tuning in to my icebreaker tutorial stream. I guess there was another guy here, too, but...
Hey, I gotta say, though, it was really awesome to see that in the first available league match. This is very similar to how we saw Spooky Action Glitch unfold originally, which you also pulled off, by the way. A lot of little victories in this race that I think you brought a lot of value to the viewers today in this broadcast.
Yeah, GG Phant. Geez, for as much as I was dumbing things this race, I was going into that Ganon fight like I'm not seeing a dot done. I don't think I'd feel good if I won this.
So after I found Ether, which I don't know about you, Ben, but it was the literal last location for me. I was like, okay, all right, let me at least get 7 crystals before he dot done. It's like, okay, let me at least get to Ganon's tower before he dots done. So let me get the big key, and then I get 2, and then when I land to the Ganon fight, I was like, oh man, did Ben get as screwed over by that location as I did? But sounds like something else got you there.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason it was it was even a race is because I skipped Pod and went straight to Turtle Rock. Because as I'm sure they've been telling you, I lost a ton of time banging my head against an early cold stare like an idiot.
Yeah.
All in all, it was very interesting choices from both runners to see. I mean, we had Phant over there who you every dungeon in the game except for killing a Trinex. Did you not?
I did. That
was very, very fun to watch and just see the whole time of Udai and I making predictions of, okay, now is this going to be what Ben does? Is he going to skip Pod? Or, okay, is Phant going to be able to capitalize on the fact that Ben just died 3 times to Cold Stare? What's going to happen here? But what was very interesting and what made it so exciting was the skill of execution for both you runners. Ben, you caught up quite rapidly from skipping the Pod, and you guys finished exactly 2 minutes apart. Ben finishing with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 53 minutes, and 57 seconds. So, that's a crazy close race. You guys are neck and neck. You guys are neck and neck. I mean, Ben was within 60 seconds in Ganon's tower.
Oh man.
Well, it really speaks to
the
how well
Ganon's tower route for the big key.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was another wager that we were sitting here. We had seen Ben do so many things that were like, it's a gamble, but it paid off. We were wondering he's gonna go straight to left side and get the key early, but then Ben went right side just like you, and then an unfortunate fall to Troll Dorm.
Oh, okay.
I will say
this, we were
though,
pretty even going up through the tower, and that was just
well, you had probably like a good 5 or 6 rooms advantage for most of the tower, including the gauntlet. The difference being, like, if we had seen a left side start for Ben, he would have been like a room behind you, and that would have actually been enough to close the gap outside of, say, Moldorm 2. So it was really exciting to watch. I think you guys are gonna really enjoy this rewatch, just to see the difference, because the main difference that we saw early in the race was the decision to go to Eastern or Desert. Ben did actually go to Desert right away when available. Phant, you did go to Eastern right away.
Yep.
But from there, we saw the early Ice Palace from Ben, the associated toll that took on him, because let's be real, 3rd time Cold Stare, it just feels bad.
Yeah, we did have
I should have pieced out after the first try.
Yeah, we did have the items to go into Ice Palace early, but by the time I found the boots and Moon Pearl not too far behind, it's like, okay, there's way much more to do before I need to go do that. And I could go clear crystals, I could go clear Death Mountain. ended up getting everything except that Ether Medallion and Kane, and then just started clearing dungeons after that. Ice Palace just fell in order there.
Yeah, and for that whole end sequence, we were watching both of you go through Turtle Rock around the same time. I mean, obviously, like the separation that we talked about is about the same for most of that, but it was just really exciting as a viewer experience. So I think the two of you did a really great job of putting on an awesome show for us today. Now, looking forward, we've got Land of the Blind, BenCreighton. Your team's still looking to get more wins on the board. What do you guys got planned for your next week? Are you going to race next week?
Yeah, next week it's going to be, I believe, myself and Yodanashi both this coming Tuesday.
Yes.
Well, that's going to be really exciting. Actually, I probably could have seen that on the schedule. You guys probably already scheduled it. Well, what about Phant, the Sexy Gannons? You're trying to climb to the top of the heap in your division. Error 216 still on the horizon. Even though there's only one win separating the two teams, they look almost insurmountable. You guys haven't already raced them, then, have you?
I don't believe we have I'm still not too familiar with who's on each team. Who is on that team?
I'll look that up real quick and find that out for you shortly. Just filling some air with some dead space. And Error 216 is Thalane, Bwayne, and Error.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, so we're fighting them next week. That they are very, very good at this game, no doubt about it. And it's gonna be tough for us.
Phant, do you plan on racing next week?
We've yet to make the decision on who is going to be our two runners for next week. I'm thinking of potentially sitting out on that one, but we'll see. It's not a category that I think I'd get a big advantage in going against a team of that caliber, execution-wise. But we'll see. It's still up in the air who's going to go. We're going to probably decide that later today.
Well, I will say that this league has really shown us that anybody is within reach. Any opponent that you would normally think, hey, I don't stand a chance against this person, because I get that feeling a lot myself. The format allows us to do so many different weird things in so many different weird settings that I wouldn't be surprised to see, Error 216 take a loss to the Sexy Gannons in week 3. I wouldn't count yourself out just yet.
It always goes down to rando is rando, right? No matter how good you are, if you get unlucky or last locationing an item or something, that's enough time where even somebody with okay execution can beat some of the top runners in the game.
One of the most fun parts about this format, and there's still plenty of weeks left to go. I'm really excited to watch the rest of the remaining 5 weeks from both of these teams. Land of the Blind, the Sexy Gannons. This was the second match for your teams this week, so you do have the remainder of the day, I guess, to relax and maybe strategize forward.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much. Once again, congratulations to Phant on your win. GG to Ben on sticking to it and coming very close. We do still have more random coming up today. There are 3 more matches throughout the day on the various B Gaming channels, so be sure to check the schedule for those. It is the last day of week 2. So week 3, that's Randomizer, starts tomorrow. So be sure to check out all of those. Do either the runners or Yuda have anything that they want to say before we head off?
No, thanks to you guys for commentating and giving us a restream. I know there's an insane amount of matches, so I'm pretty impressed by the effort that all you guys do to try and get as many of these races restreamed as possible. I mean, it's quite the undertaking. As somebody who's done a lot for tournaments in the past, it is not easy. So props to you guys.
I can certainly speak to that, and I do want to thank both of you for putting on the show for us. None of this is possible without the people racing, and then that's what we're really here to do. We want to highlight you guys for putting yourselves on a big stage. This, of course, was on Speed Gaming 5 today to an audience of, it looked to me like well over 500 people. It's pretty impressive for that channel. And, speaking of other races going on today, the ALTTPR League and the ALTTPR League 2 currently have races going on with Reg, Cascade Hope, and Lumaga and Technolink. We also have a match that started at the same time on Speed Gaming Main between my teammate Giselle Schaft versus Walther 4 of Old Swagga Jackson. So those are the remaining matches of the day. If you're looking to catch more Randomizer, ship yourselves on over there. after this interview to see what's left of the Ambrosia Week. Ben, any closing thoughts before we close out the broadcast?
Don't fight cold stare in green mail. It's a bad time. Don't do it.
Hey, it was a valiant effort.
You did very good on your first attempt. You came very close. I think you were like just a couple hits away. All right. Thank you all so much for watching.
Yep. Big shout outs to Worldwide Wimpy for doing our tracking, and for viewers like you for having us on the air and hanging out with us and putting up with our puns. You guys are going to like the puns if you watch us back, if you like puns.
Looking forward to it.
Well, that's about all for us today here on Speed Gaming 5. I've been Uday Monistic, joined today by Yodanashi on the mic. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you next time.